Shalom. This is Adessa Batsai One, returning with another study in connection to the Nephilim. The previous study, we looked at the rise of the giants called the Nephilim, and now we're going to look at the final fall of the giants called the Nephilim. This is part one, and we will have a part two, which will conclude this particular study. So let's get started because this could be a lengthy study as well. We now understand the spiritual significance and implications that Hamashiach was teaching us when he had spoken concerning as in the days of Nach and as in the days of Lawat. So if you have not seen those studies, I will strongly encourage you to please go and take a look so that you can understand what we're dealing with today. This is the problem with many people today. They cannot understand what is really going on. I mean, when people are seeing certain events taking place, they're scratching their heads. It's like, why is this happening? Why aren't the authorities stepping in and correcting this behavior, this agenda, because of this bloodline, the Nephilim bloodline? I was just watching persons, they were doing their Bible studies, and they were scratching their heads concerning a particular denominational church that has suddenly, which isn't suddenly, but in their eyes, I guess it is sudden to them, that this church now is siding with the rainbow community and allowing their practices in the church. Well, this has been going on for some time. And this should come as no surprise to you as long as you know that every denomination on this earth was created by the church, by the Roman Catholic Church. And we know the Roman Catholic Church is an entity. It is an offspring of the Roman Empire. Every religion is a branch of the Roman Catholic Church because it was created by them. And who is behind the Roman Catholic Church? Who is behind all of these empires that have existed on the earth? The Nephilim bloodline. The Heavenly Father is leading me into another kind of study. And I just started it yesterday. And it's looking at the ancient bloodlines on this earth. The families, the old families, the ones with all the money that owns practically everything on this earth, including us. We are their slaves. We are the ones that do all the labor for them. And they reap the profits. And then they tell us how we ought to live, what we ought to eat. So all the same people. No one is different. Just because you see the word church does not make them different. The church is an entity, a pagan religious entity that is part of this system. So anything that you see happening today in the churches, do not be surprised. That's why the Father said, come out of her. Going to see that in a little while. Come out. You think that you are worshiping the Most High because you're going to a building? No. The only temple that He will dwell in is the one that He instructs us to build. And He hasn't instructed us to build anything. And yes, he goes with us, but he does not dwell in the place that we go to. That's why we ought not to confine ourselves to a building and thinking that this is his house. He's looking for dwelling places not made with hands. That's our bodies, our persons. And it's not called a church either. The congregation of Yahweh are his 12 tribes. And for right now, we're divided into two, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. And they're not a church. Never was and never will be. So anything that you see coming from or any denomination on this earth, denomination of churches, do not be surprised. Okay, let's carry on. We also understand who he will be bringing his judgments against when he returns to the earth, just like the judgments in the days of Nach and Lawat. However, Alahayam will not be sending a flood again, only fire and brimstone to destroy all of the evil bloodline and those who follow after them. You see, you have the ancient families, and then you have their puppets that follow after them. They could have the bloodline as well, but they're the lower caste, not the upper caste of the bloodline. They're the workers, the ones that are told what to do, the foot soldiers. And then you have the foolish one that are adopted in out of ignorance by following and doing what they say to do. They go and they take on the bloodline by taking things that they're not supposed to take. Because that bloodline, the Nephilim bloodline, can be introduced into your bloodline, into your bloodstream through the jabs. And then there's possession, demonic possession. That's a big one. All right. There are currently two bloodlines on the earth, the bloodline that Alahayam Yahweh created and the corrupted bloodline of the Nephilim that is abominable and damnable before him. So anyone that has this bloodline, they're condemned. There's no salvation for them. The corrupted bloodline will not receive salvation, only utter destruction. Why? Because they do not have the original bloodline that Alahayam created. They're not of the original copy of mankind that Alahayam created. He created Adam and Hawa to procreate, to make children, and their children made children, and so on and so forth. But then another bloodline was introduced into their bloodline by the fallen angels, creating a hybrid species. And that same hybrid species is the one that has corrupted mankind through their deeds, their thoughts, what have you. And of course, the bloodline. And this is why Alahayam destroyed everything on the earth in the beginning because of Nach and his children and their wives. They were saved because Nach was found righteous before Alahayam, meaning he was not corrupted. Neither were his children, neither were their wives. And so Alahayam preserved animals as well, because even the animals were corrupted by the Nephilim bloodline. And he started all over again after the flood. And then we have the situation with Lawat. This is the reason why Hamashiach mentioned those two events, because of the Nephilim corruption. Now we will look at the complete annihilation of the Nephilim bloodline in the end times. Alahayam Yahweh had already started his judgments against these creatures a long time ago, when he sent the flood, when he sent Yashraal to annihilate them in the promised land, and when he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Now they, the Sodomites, are back in greater force, where Alahayam Yahweh will bring his final judgments on the earth in batches of sevens. So the first batch of judgments is called the seal judgments, ushering in the birth pangs or the sorrows, the time of sorrow. And four seals are already broken and will climax until the southern kingdom is delivered. Then the fifth seal will be broken afterwards, and then the sixth and the seventh seal. But we will not be here for the fifth seal. Next will be the trumpet judgments, which is the great tribulation, whereby the fifth trumpet, the northern kingdom, will also be delivered. Then the final batch of judgments will come, called the seven vials, which are also called the wrath of Alahayam Yahweh, will complete all of his judgments on the earth. So if you notice, the southern kingdom has to go through some of these judgments. Speaking of the seal judgments, and then by the fourth seal, before the fifth seal starts or is broken, we're taken out of here. Hamashiach is going to come in the clouds and regather us. Then by the fifth seal will begin the great tribulation, the time of Jacob's trouble. Sorry, I should not have used those two words, but it will be the time of Yaakov's trouble for the northern kingdom, because the great tribulation has to do with the seven trumpets. All right, but it will be great tribulation for our northern kingdom brethren, but it is not the great tribulation as yet. But they too will have to endure the rest of the seals and up to the fifth trumpet, when they too will be sealed and preserved from any more judgments on the earth. Alahayam will set them out on the second Exodus. They will head towards the land Yashraal. And by the time they get there, everything and everyone that's living there will be gone. All right. We did that in the Revelation series. We looked at this in great detail. Throughout these judgments, the kingdom of darkness, made up of the Nephilim bloodline and the fallen angels, will be targeted by Alahayam Yahweh to destroy them and to remove them permanently from off this earth, one judgment after another. Alahayam spoke about his judgments against certain nations, and very specifically because they were the tormentors of his people, Yashraal. And they were also either influenced by the Nephilim, or they were and still are Nephilim. Many nations enslaved his people. Speaking about the southern kingdom, and these wicked nations physically and emotionally abused our fathers, our forefathers, and even us today, in the most horrendous ways they could think of. Why? Because they hate us. This bloodline hates us. In fact, this bloodline This bloodline hates anything that is not like them. And we, Yashraal, are in the image of Alahayam Yahweh. We are his people, his chosen. So they hate us even more. They hate all the Gentiles that do not have their bloodline, but they hate Yashraal even more because they know one thing is for certain. When we are in covenant with Alahayam Yahweh, they can't touch us. And not only they can't touch us, but they know when we are regathered that their time on this earth reigning, their wickedness upon mankind will be coming to an end. And their time of eternal damnation will begin. And that's why they hate us. They would like to destroy all of us, but they just can't. They can't. Alahayam will exact his revenge on all these nations, many of which will be completely annihilated, never to see this earth again. There's just going to be some nations of people, talking about people from specific countries, that enslaved us and treated us in the most vile way possible, in the vilest way possible. And Alahayam is going to wipe out them and every descendant after them. He said so in his word. I'm not making this up. There's just going to be some nations that you will not see existing anymore on this earth. And some people will say, well, it wasn't me or my family that did this. It has nothing to do with that. If Yashraal, speaking of the southern kingdom, because northern kingdom is sleeping right now, if we that were born in captivity have not done anything, it was because of our forefathers that caused us to be enslaved, in fact, caused them to be enslaved and us to be born in captivity. However many hundreds of years later. And we still are paying the cost of their disobedience. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. We deserve it. Because look at our people today. And if we, the chosen seed, has to go through our own judgments based on something that our forefathers have done, how much more would the Gentiles have to go through the same kind of judgments based and be punished based on things that their forefathers have done? It doesn't have to be a blood relative. It is your people. Your people that have done this thing. Yes, they were supposed to enslave us because of our rebellion against Alahayam Yahweh, but they were not supposed to abuse us and treat us like animals. So Alahayam is going to take revenge based on things that happened, yes, hundreds of years ago, but their offspring are still living right now. Their descendants are still living. They're the ones looking for a rapture because they know what's coming for them and they don't want to deal with it. But it's coming. And a lot of them are not going to see salvation. They're not going to be preserved. They will be annihilated. Yes, many people are going to die throughout the judgments, but only a remnant Alahayam is going to reserve for himself. The ones that will be living even to the very end, and the ones that have died, he's going to reserve them for himself, speaking about the Gentiles. Why? Because they have turned their hearts towards him and towards us. Not everyone will like a Negro. You know why? Because they have been programmed even before they were born to hate us. And those are the ones that Alahayam is just going to wipe off the face of this earth. You can't love us, you definitely will not be able to love him, because we were created in his image. We look like him. He is not a Caucasian. Hamashiach was not a Caucasian. That's what the earth has been programmed to believe. But if you go and look at those ancient pictures of the saints and what have you, they're all Negroes. I had a friend, he said he went to Matzarayam, he went to Egypt. He visited the pyramids. And when you go inside the pyramid, and the one that had a drawing of Yawasap, he said, you would not believe it. But of course I believe it. He was a Negro. The Egyptians too were all Negroes. That's why when troubles came, we ran to one of two places, either Matzarayam, which is Egypt, or Africa. Why? Because we all look the same. We didn't run to Kittim or any other place, but we went to Africa or we went to Matzarayam. Go to the Bible and see it. Anyways, let's move on. Let's look at Yasha'oyah, the book of Isaiah, chapter 13, verse 6. Howl you, for the day of Yahweh is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from Hashaddai. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. And they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travails. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. They're burning. They're in pain. All right? Behold, the day of Yahweh comes, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate. So when you hear of the day of Yahweh comes, that's his judgment. That's his time of judgment. And he's coming with wrath and fierce anger. And what is this land that he's going to lay desolate? That is Yashua. And he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. So, verse 10, we know there are two periods of times when the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give her light. That will be the 3 days of darkness. Just before the 3 days of darkness, well, it will be the 3 days of darkness, and the second time will be when Hamashiach comes with his saints on white horses. This is Revelation chapter 19. When he comes to be king on the earth. Darkness precedes him because the sun, moon, and stars will be finished. He is coming to bring his glory on the earth. That will be the light on the earth. There will be no sun, moon, and stars anymore. All right. Verse 11. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy, the pride of the proud, the arrogant, the insolent to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. So all these wicked people that you see today, Alahayam has taken notice. He is taking notice, and he's taking notes too. And when it is time for him to roll out his punishments, his judgments, they will howl. They will howl. The ones that are influenced by this bloodline and the bloodline, all of them howl. Let's look at Zechariah chapter 2, verse 8. For thus saith Yahweh Sabaoth, that's Yahweh of hosts, after the glory had he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. What does that word mean? Meaning they enslaved us and they battered us, they killed us, they slaughtered us, they treated us like animals, worse than animals. They spoiled us. For he that touches you touches the apple of his eye. We, Yashraal, the 12 tribes of Yashraal, the Negroes. Only the ones that look like Negroes, not the Indian looking ones that are Hebrew Israelite camps, are trying to bring into our congregation. No, not them. Not even a mixed multitude. You got to be Negro through and through. Some of us might have a little lighter skin. Some of us might be a little darker. But when you look at us, we all look the same. Negro. And we are the apple of his eye. And anyone who touches us, he is going to take revenge on them personally, and even the inhabitants as a nation. Alahayam has promised that he will avenge the enemies of Yashraal, not just in the past, but their future descendants. These enemies were the Nephilim races, and today it is a bloodline. Yet Alahayam will still severely punish them and remove them from the earth forever. Not one of their offspring, their seed, will exist ever again. Completely gone, as if they never existed. He's going to do that with Yashraal, the rebels, and he's going to do it with the Gentiles. We will look briefly at some of the prophecies given, although there are a few which we will read thoroughly. The judgments that Alahayam gave were addressed as burdens. A burden is a physical load that is carried on the shoulders, or an emotional load, as in something difficult or traumatic. That too is carried, but in the heart. In these judgments, the word burden alludes to a load, but it also points to something that was done which was oppressive, heavy, and abusive. So that became the burden upon the person that was being abused, oppressed, given blows, what have you, which was the case with these nations. So these nations that Alahayam are going to address when he sent his prophets to speak to them, even though they're speaking to them in those days, that bloodline is still here today. And these are the ones that are responsible, they were responsible and still are responsible for all the oppressiveness, the wickedness, the evil that is on this earth that has been done against people, especially Yashraal, that has never left. So their treatment of others was a burden upon the, 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 the ones being victimized. And now Alahayam is going to bring his burden against them because of their burden on others. They were oppressive and abusive. Hence, Alahayam Yahweh judged their burden, which they placed upon others, namely Yashraal. Now, the first burden that we will focus on in this study will be Babylon. And you know, Babylon is a big study. I already did a study on Babylon in the book of Revelation. And I also did an extension of this study when I looked at the Roman Catholic Church and Christianity. And it helps us to understand what Babylon is, what it was in the past, what it is today, and what it will be tomorrow, in the future, meaning future, not tomorrow literally. Because a lot of people think that Babylon is a country. All right. Let's look at Yasha'oyah, the book of Isaiah, chapter 13, and we're going to go to verse 1. We just looked at verse 6 to 11. Now we're going to start from verse 1. The burden of Babylon, which Yasha'oyah, the son of Amos, did see. Then we drop down now to verse 19 of the same chapter, chapter 13. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when Alahayam overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. We just looked at that. And we looked at as in the days of Lawat. Verse 20, it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their folds there. So this prophecy is twofold in its event. The first Babylon spoken of here is speaking of the empire Babylon when Nebuchadnezzar was the king. It was a conquering empire. It conquered nations, including Yashraal. And Alahayam allowed Babylon to conquer Yashraal because of their wickedness. They broke his covenant. They broke his commandments. They lived like harlots. He warned them. And all they do, they killed the prophets that came to warn them, stop doing this or else. They didn't want to hear that. So they killed the prophets. So Alahayam said, okay, you want it this way, then I'm going to cause you to be enslaved. But Alahayam said this of Babylon because he know Babylon is a very influential, or it was in those days, and powerful empire that worshiped other deities. And he had to put Nebuchadnezzar in his place when he turned him into a beast to prove to him, you don't claim that you own anything because I gave it to you. You give honor to me, not to yourself. And for 7 years, he had to live like a beast. But Alahayam said he's going to treat them. He's going to overthrow them the same way how he treated and overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Burned them up with fire and brimstone. So this is the future now. Because Babylon never really left the earth. We're going to see that in a bit. And as you know, the empire Babylon didn't come back again. But its influence can be still found in different empires and each subsequent empire based on the gods that they worship. They may call them by a different name, but it's the same God. It's the same pagan wretchedness that they were worshiping. We will take a deep look now at Babylon, the past, the present, and the coming future Babylon. What it really represents today and what it will be in the future. When the prophets spoke about Babylon as a great city and a whore, it was not speaking of it as a country or even a continent, but rather the prophecies were pointing us to a future system that will greatly influence the world with its confusion, hence the name Babylon. Babylon today is a religious system that is currently obscured, it is hidden. But it has created many different branches of religions. This is how we know that Babylon is here. Babylon is a system. It is not a country. It is a system, a religious system for now. This system is responsible for every religion in this world today, even the Hebrew Israelite camps. That's part of Babylon, confusion. If you notice, they are confused about the name of Alahayam Yahweh, and they're calling on other names to worship. And they're using the fakers in our land as a guide post as to how they ought to worship and the feast days that they must keep and how they ought to keep it and the days in which they must keep it. They're using them as a way to know the language. That's confusion. If they're the fakers in our land, why are you looking at them? Why are you even considering them, anything that they do? Following after them. That means you're confused. That means that you're part of Babylon. You're suckered into that system of confusion. The same way these same people will cry down to Christian churches and say, oh, you're calling on Jesus, you're calling on Tammuz, you're calling on Caesar Borgia, and that's confusion. Well, you are calling on Yahweh. You're calling on Yahuwah. You're calling on all these pagan names except the true name of Yahweh, the true name of Alahayam, who is Yahweh. And you're still, some of our brethren, they're still calling on God. They're still calling on Lord because they don't have a problem with it. Because they're confused. They're part, they have been suckered in to this system. The system is very cunning. And this is how it traps us. It traps us in our mind through pride. Nobody's going to tell me to stop calling him God. He knows in my heart who I mean, who I'm talking about. What's wrong with the name Jesus? What's wrong with the name Lord God? They don't have a problem with it. So they figure, well, if I don't have a problem with it, then he doesn't have a problem with it. And yet they cry down the Christian churches and say that they're worshiping God, false gods, pagan gods. And they're calling on the same gods, the names and the titles of the same gods. So who's more confused? They call the people in our land right now, they say that they're the fake Jews. And yet they're calling on their gods and learning their language and observing the same festivals and how on their days, mind you, and the things that they do on their festivals. and yet they're the fakers. How confused is that? You will have to be confused. Yes, they stole our language and they converted it and made it Hebrew. And yes, all we need to know is the letters of their alphabet. And then we can figure it out with the help of Ruach HaKodesh. Yes, the feast days belong to us, but Alahayam himself would show us through his word and through the revelation of Ruach HaKodesh how we ought to be celebrating his feast days. We don't look to them for guidance. That's confusion. That's Babylon. Okay. Yashraal is the only nation who is in covenant with Alahayam Yahweh as long as we follow and obey all of his commandments. Only Yashraal can be in covenant with Alahayam Yahweh, not the Gentiles. I know there's some Gentiles out there think that because they're calling on Yahuwah or Yahweh, and they're keeping Torah, as they will say, that somehow they believe that they're in covenant with the Most High, but they're not. The covenant is not meant for anyone except Yashraal. The Gentiles will come in with us at the end of the age, not now. Not now. The best that you can do is keep your garments clean by listening to us and stop trying to tell us how we ought to be worshipped, how we ought to worship, and all other things, because that's what they love to do. That's what these Gentiles love to do. They're wrong, and they want to make us wrong too, when they're supposed to come to us to learn and know what it is that they're supposed to be doing in order to be preserved. If not alive, but at least after death, they can return. Understand? But they don't want to hear. They don't want to learn. They don't want to know. Because it's not given to them to know. A Gentile should never be teaching Yashraal or teaching with Yashraal. They ought to be learning from us because we're the ones in covenant with Alahayam. We receive Ruach HaKodesh and the revelation of his word. And that's why they have to go and use gematria and numerology and astrology in order to understand, quote unquote, prophecies. We don't need all of that. We get it straight from Alahayam Yahweh through Ruach HaKodesh, through his spirit. And that's why they are in such error today, because they're full of pride. Not only the Gentiles, but our own people too. Full of pride. You can't tell them anything. This is how Babylon keeps them in check, through pride. And you can't speak to them, because the first thing they'll do is they want to curse you out. They don't want to hear anything. So it's better to keep peace and keep your nuggets to yourself. It's not for everyone. Revelation of the word of Alahayam is not meant for everyone. Everyone can't get it. They can't receive it because it's not meant for them. They don't have the brain power to hold it anyway. So only Yashraal can be in covenant with Alahayam Yahweh. The best that Gentiles that want to follow Alahayam Yahweh, the best that they can do is to keep their garments clean. Keep their garments clean, and all will go well for them in the long run. You got to go through it. I'm sorry to say this, but you got to go through the tribulations. all of the judgments. And if your garment remains white at the end of the age, at the end when he is ready to give rewards to the Gentiles, then you will receive your just and due reward and welcome and be welcomed in now to the covenant with Yashrael and be given one of our tribal names. It's not going to happen before that. All right, let's move on. Many people today call America Babylon, or the UK, or some other country, but this is in great error because people don't understand. Alahayam, Yahweh has not given them the understanding, so they're walking around and say, oh, Babylon is, America is Babylon. So when you see Babylon in the Bible, it's speaking about America. They can't understand what it is. They don't understand what it means. It's easier for them to understand that Babylon is a country more so than a system that is a religious system for now, because they, the ones that believe that America is Babylon, is under that same system. So if they have to believe that Babylon is a system, then what they're believing in, the church that they're in, the Hebrew Israelite that they're in, will all be a lie to them. It will be too much of a shock to their system. So they can't let go of their church. They can't let go of the Hebrew Israelite camp that they're in. So they hold on to the one thing that they only know to hold on to, and that is to believe that America is Babylon. Once they believe America is Babylon, they can continue on living as they are. But if they believe that Babylon is a religious system, then they have to question the church or Hebrew Israelite camp that they're in, and everything else that comes along with it. Everything else, the doctrines, what have you. And that's too big a problem for them. Babylon in the past was an empire that ruled over countries. And yes, that kind of rulership is still in effect, but only as a religious system for now. Only for now. We know that this religious system is operating today based on the strong focus on religions or no religion as an option. Some people say, I'm an atheist, but that's a religion too. Because then you become a god. You believe in what you believe in. You don't believe that there are gods or that there's a creator. You believe in you. And that is a religion of self. That's the I am religion. So that's still a religion, which is still a religion. All right? Each religion on the earth was created by Babylon, the whore, the mother of harlots, the brainchild of the Nephilim. Every religion on the earth worshiped fallen angels posing as gods. They were worshipped in the past by another name and other civilizations. And here they are today being worshipped diligently by people who have their minds overshadowed by ignorance. If you doubt me, go and watch the study. I should link it. I'll try to remember. Link it to this study here. Go and watch the Roman Catholic Church and Christianity. I went into detail about even about the cross that the Christians love to worship and the Jesus that they love to worship, all of it. All the gods that you see that have been worshipped, say, starting with Babylon, Matsarayam, the Romans, the Greek, the Medes and Persian, they all are the same gods, but by different names. And these gods that were worshipped were the fathers, the fallen angels of the Nephilim. The Nephilim, the hybrid breed, they worshiped their fathers like gods. When they were put in chains, talking about 200 washers that became the fallen angels, then the other fallen angels that are around today, they took up the mantle now to become gods like the ones that were worshipped before. They become the gods for the civilizations all around the earth and throughout the ages. But the original gods were the fathers of the Nephilim. It was the Nephilim that worshiped their fathers like gods because they taught them powerful things. Powerful. So once they were locked away, then the other fallen angels stepped in and said, okay, well, we'll take up the mantle from here. I'll be Zeus. I'll be Jupiter. Whatever the case may be, whatever gods that you know that are out there, that's what they became. And that's how they kept pagan worship going on the earth throughout the ages, because of these gods. And if you look at every single religion that is on this earth, it's all connected. They're all connected. And they're all pagan gods. Whether it's Jesus or Lord God or Yahweh, what have you. They're all pagan gods. And they try to give them stories like Alahayam Yahweh, and even the events that took place in our history. They try they stole the event and they reformat it to make it their own event. All right? Even Hamashiach, the birth of Hamashiach. Then you got the pagans now. Tammuz is introduced with a similar story. And you look at the other religions, they all have similar stories of how their God was born, or the son of their God was born. What have you. But they stole the initial story from us. And it's not a story, it is our history. And that's why a lot of people say, well, I can't believe that because Christianity said this and this other religion says that. Who can I believe? Well, if you have asked that question, then it means that you're in ignorance. And the Most High is not giving you the light of understanding. He is not giving you the truth. And you will remain in the darkness until He gives you the truth, or until you die in the darkness. That means you're going to perish. And many people, their minds are overshadowed by ignorance. It's called skotos. Ignorance. It's a darkness that comes from these devils. And Alahayam permits it because He doesn't even send any light, any understanding, nothing. He doesn't. Why? Because people are determined to be ignorant. They don't want to know. Like I've always said, the truth is a bitter pill to swallow. It is for this reason why Alahayam Yahweh will punish this entity himself, and it will be a tremendous destruction at that. The empire that was once called Babylon enslaved our forefathers, Yashraal, but they were overthrown by another empire. Yet at the same time, they were absorbed into that empire. They didn't just disappear. They were absorbed into the Medes and Persian Empire. As all these world dominating empires were and are Nephilim creations. So that absorption is because they're all Nephilim and they all have the same plan, the same plot to conquer. It's just that Alahayam overthrew them and say, I have given you enough time, Babylon. Medes, Persians, overthrow them. When the Medes and Persians have exhausted their time, when their time of ruling and reigning comes to an end, Alahayam raised up the Greeks to conquer the Medes and Persia. There's nothing they can do about it. They have to obey him because they're evil spirits that are behind these empires. They're Satans. We're going to see that in a little bit. They're Satans that are behind these empires. And when Alahayam said, your time is up, and he raised up now the Roman Empire to conquer the Greek Empire, they don't have a choice, even though they're all part of the same. They're all part of the same party. So the best that they can do is reabsorb themselves into the next empire. And that's why you see the same gods that were worshipped by the Babylonians were worshipped by the Medes and Persians, and then it passes on to the Greeks and then the Romans, and even today, because they absorbed themselves into the next empire. We know this for a fact, as the pagan worship of Babylon has influenced every empire since its existence. Soon, Babylon will be revealing itself to the world as an amalgamated religious body called the Whore of Babylon, where every religion known to mankind will be found within this organization. Soon, the Pentecostal churches will hear, well, you were Catholic all along, you didn't even know it. The Baptists, all of them. The Hebrew Israelite camps, all of them. All religions are part of this system. The only people that are not part of this system are the awakened southern tribe. Only people that are not part of it. It will also be at this time when it will reveal itself as being the founding mother of all religions. Although technically Babylon will not be an empire, it will possess great financial power to control the empire in place. So in the end times, when the southern kingdom is gone, the northern kingdom is, I believe by this time, the northern kingdom will be sealed. And this beast now will reveal itself. There will be a great revealing that it has been pulling the strings behind the backdrop, in the background. All right. We probably will go through this, but I will explain a little bit here. Babylon right now is a hidden religious system. After the sixth seal is broken and that great earthquake comes, it will cause the landmass all the land masses to come together to be one land mass again. This is all Alahayam's doing. Discuss this too in the Book of Revelation series. This will be the ideal time for Babylon to reinvent itself to be more than a religious system. It will then become very good at trades and commerce. And it will build a port city. Because now, remember, technology is gone. No more airplanes, no more automobiles, what have you, trains, what have you. Only ships. You want to go somewhere, you got to ride a horse or a donkey cart or what have you. But it's one landmass now. Only one landmass. So you don't have to cross bodies of water or anything like that. And so Babylon will become a great city, a port city that will be very wealthy, because everyone and anyone who wants to become wealthy will automatically become a part of this system and trade with it. And because it is going to be extraordinarily wealthy, it will have power more so than the empire that will be in place at that time. And that empire will be the New World Order number 8, the beast number 8. In fact, not New World Order number 8, but it will be the beast empire number 8. It is still the New World Order, but it will be the weakened original New World Order, the one that's coming. The one that's coming is going to be a technology-based empire, but because of the earthquake that will destroy all technology off the face of this earth, and the Satan, Gadriel, that will be the Satan behind it, will be put aside for a while, benched, can't do anything. And so this entity called the New World Order will be without a Satan until Azazel is released from the bottomless pit. However, when Azazel comes and takes the reign now of this empire, it will be so weak that it will be dependent on the whore to have some kind of power on the earth. But it will hate the whore. But it has no choice but to allow the whore to ride it. Because the empire before, they were the ones that were calling the shots. And now this whore sitting upon the empire is showing you that she's the one who is now controlling the empire. And by the way, Babylon, the system, is going to have its own Satan. And these Satans, they don't like one another, but they are together for one common cause, to take down Alahayam and his people, if they could, right? That's their only common cause. But truthfully, they hate one another. But Alahayam too, he's going to trigger the beast against the whore. We're going to see that. Let's read on. The empire which will be operating at that time will be the New World Order, beast empire number 8, possessed by Azazel. This empire will be weakened, and that's when it was number 7, possessed by Azazel, and then the technology that it was using to control the world and wreaking havoc, all that will be destroyed. So that empire now is so weak, it doesn't have a choice but to allow the whore of Babylon to ride it. This empire will be weakened, but this whore will help to make it strong again through its influence and its affluence. But the beast will hate the whore and will destroy her by the command of Yahweh Alahayam. Let's look at Revelation chapter 14, verse 8. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, it is overthrown, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So you see how influential this creature is? It caused all the nations of the earth, and as it is today, causing all the nations of the earth to be involved in pagan religion of one kind or another, whether Pentecostal, evangelical, whether it is worshiping Buddha, and what have you. All religions were created by Babylon. And this is what made Alahayam very angry, because not only did this entity cause nations to drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, but it happened to Yashrael. Think about the many times when Alahayam warned our forefathers to not worship pagan gods. Have no other gods, just have me. I am Kana'ah Alahayam. I am jealous Alahayam. Do not bow down yourselves to them. Don't make any images and call them me, because that's pagan. Do not marry into the other nations, because they're going to draw you into pagan worship, amongst other things. And this is because of Babylon. Okay, let's look at Yeshaoyah chapter 21, verse 9. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 21, verse 9. And behold, here comes a chariot of men with a couple of horsemen. And he answered and said, Babylon is fallen, and all the graven images of her gods he has broken onto the ground. So if you had a doubt that Babylon wasn't a religious system, think again. The wine of the wrath of Babylon's fornication is speaking of all its false doctrines, pagan worship, occult rituals, which includes human sacrifices, orgies, the eating of human flesh, and the drinking of human blood. This is the reason why Hamashiach, he is Alahayam still, but Hamashiach warned us about the days of Nach and the days of Lawat, the day that he will come. The day that he will come, this earth will climax to a point of such wickedness. It will be so ripe with wickedness. It will be as in the days of as in the days of Nach and as in the days of Lawat combined. And when we looked at what was happening during the days of Nach and the days of Lawat, we saw all these things happening. Abominations. And this is what Babylon delights in. Abominations. And it's using its agents to draw people into abominations. All the nations on the earth will follow after these practices, as this system will provide the only way to make a living enough to make a man very wealthy. And as a matter of fact, that should be present tense as well, because all nations on the earth are already following after some of these practices. But you will see, well, we wouldn't see it, but we know that these practices, especially the eating of human flesh and drinking of blood and the occult rituals and what have you, will climax during her time of revealing. And because people want to make a living, and because she will give them great wealth, just like what she does with the agents today, give them position and power if they carry out her agendas to draw people into pagan worship. All manner of wickedness, wicked lifestyles. They have this, and I'm only mentioning it to show you how wicked these people have caused, or I shouldn't say cause mankind, but the wickedness that they want to promote before mankind. They had this, their devilish gala. And the one person that was the talk of the town was this creature wearing nothing. Basically, a very thin veil exposing itself 100%. I mean, this person anyway is a male transformed into female, first of all. And we know that all these kinds of things, the Nephilim bloodline, whether they're the low caste or not, they delight in doing these things because they have no souls. They have no conscience. They have no sense of pride. And when I say pride, I mean like of moral conduct. I'm not talking about pride that makes you stubborn. All right, there's another kind of pride where you take pride in yourself and dress appropriately. That kind of pride. But this creature is posing delightfully for the cameras. And that is promoting another level of wickedness where people don't even have to wear clothes anymore. All right? Why? Because Nephilim bloodline delights in anything that is wicked and perverse. And they want to promote it so that other people, foolish people, will do the same things too. And they delight in foolish people committing the same abominations as they are committing. They delight in it more so than anything else because they realize, they know that people are doing it out of ignorance. But at the same time, it is a form of pagan worship. You're offering up yourselves to their gods. And it doesn't stop there, because now you start to indulge in other things that you ordinarily would not indulge in, because that's the problem with Nephilim. Like I said, in the days of Lawat, Nephilim bloodline can be very influential. That's why Alahayam had to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. They were getting to a point where they would have corrupted anything and everyone on that earth at that time, including his own people. Look at how they corrupted Lawat in the end, and his children. So to prevent any more of their wickedness spilling out from that city, from those cities, Alahayam just destroyed it. Because he didn't want it to come near Abraham and his son, who will be going to be the progenitor for the tribes that were coming. Just like when he destroyed the earth, everything that was on the earth in the days of Nach, they were too advanced. And they were getting to a place where, yes, they would have destroyed everything that Alahayam created. And Alahayam said, no, you're not. I'm going to shut you down. He did it during the days during the flood. He did it by sending the flood. And then he did it again in Sodom and Gomorrah. Because there's a time set aside for these wicked entities to carry out their worst. And now is the time. Why? Because this is the time that Alahayam will destroy them off the face of this earth. All the nations on the earth, sorry, I read that already. The wise people of the Gentiles will be living in absolute poverty until Alahayam instructs the beast to kill her. That's beast number 8. Beast empire number 8. And then Hamashiach will destroy the beast before he begins his millennial reign. We also see proof that Babylon will be a religious system made up of all the religions of the world. In Yasha'oyah chapter 21 verse 9, we had just looked at that. When it is revealed to us that the graven images of her gods will be destroyed. So when we see those words, that means that it is a religious system. It has gods. All religions are confusion, which brings division. And this is the purpose of the Nephilim, to keep all people indoctrinated in paganism and separated from each other. Because we might compare notes and realize, but wait a second, you are of a different culture, but we're kind of still worshiping the same God, you know? All right? Even the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom are caught up in religions. While serving Jesus Christ, God, Yahuwah, Ahaya, Yahweh, Lord, and many other names and titles that our people call on in ignorance, until Yahweh awakened us up, or wakes us up to know him by his true name and true titles. I was in the church. I thought I was in the best place. And I was calling on Jesus and Christ and Lord and God. And then when he took me out, then I was calling on Yahweh. And then I was calling on Ahaya. And then I was calling on Yahuwah. I went through all these names until he said, come, daughter. Let me teach you our language so that you can know my name. All right. Let's move on to Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 6. That's the book of Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of Yahweh's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. He's going to reward her for her wickedness. Speaking of Babylon, when Alahayam woke us up, it was for us to flee out of Babylon, out of confusion, out of religion. That's why he woke us up. It's time for us to get out of Babylon, out of confusion, religious confusion. Because he does not want us to go down with this system. And even though this system is going to be punished in the end times, if we get caught up, so much so that we remain in it, Judgment will be coming against us too, because we refuse to adhere to the command and to the voice of Alahayam Yahweh to get out. You love her so much because she offers you wealth. I know there are a lot of brethren out there right now. They have their channels and whatnot, and they're still calling on Lord and God and what have you, because it draws people to their channel and they get a lot of subscribers. I watched them. I watched them before when they were calling on Yahweh, and their numbers were small. And then when they started calling on God and Christ, then all of a sudden the Gentiles jump in and become their subscribers. And the bigger the numbers of subscribership, there's money to be made. And that's what they want. Babylon makes them rich. I watched them. But they're caught up in the midst of Babylon. Confusion. They're confused because they want money. Oh, they're teaching and preaching a lot of nonsense and tickling the ears of people just so they can get favor from people, money, what have you. They don't want to know the truth. They don't want to teach the truth because the truth cripples anyone financially. It cripples you, especially in this day and age. And that's a good thing too, because the love of money, we know the saying, it isn't money itself, but it's the love of money. Brings all kinds of troubles. And in order for you to make money in this system, under this system, you got to compromise yourself. Some of our people, they don't like being poor because they can't see the future. They can't see what's waiting for us. They want it here and now. That's why they cry out for reparations. They want it here, they want it now. And if I gotta close one eye and pretend that I don't know and keep on doing the things that I used to do in order to make a buck, they're gonna do it. If I have to break a commandment here, break a statute here, there, if I gotta compromise a little, which always ends up being a lot, that's all right. The Father understands that we need to make a living, and He knows my heart. That's what the devils fool them into thinking. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? You gain wealth, you gain position, you gain power. But at the end of the age, and there is coming an end very soon, where all wickedness will be destroyed and anyone who is caught up in it. You can't say that you're going to repent just before it happens, because the Most High will take that repentance away from you. He will not allow you to have a chance to repent because He's done with you. Once Alahayam is done with you, there's no repentance that you can give. You wouldn't have a voice to give it. You wouldn't have a voice to speak it. Furthermore, a heart to want to repent. Why do we repent when we have done wrong? Because we're what HaKadash convicts our hearts, and then he leads us to repentance. And if there's no rawak, there will be no conviction. And there goes destruction. Verse 7, Babylon has been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken, intoxicated, stupefied. You can't see sense. When Babylon being a cup, a golden cup in Yahweh's hand, that means that he's allowing Babylon to carry out her wicked devices, her wicked agendas. Alahayam is allowing her. Why? Because he's using her to sift people, forcing us to choose a side. Either you want to live in righteousness or not. And this is what Babylon, being a golden cup in Yahweh's hand, is. He is giving her permission to carry out her wicked agendas. But he's also given us understanding and certain knowledge to know that if we want to live in righteousness, we have to turn away from all the wicked things that we used to enjoy and do. Even if we didn't enjoy it, but we still do it. But we need to turn away. Otherwise, you become drunk. You become stupefied. You lose all your senses. You can't think straight. You got to keep doing what you're doing. Because Alahayam has removed his presence. So now you're in full control of this entity and all the devils that come along with it. You don't have a choice but to worship Jesus. You don't have a choice but to believe in Christ. You don't have a choice. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. That's halal, meaning boastful, to make a fool of, make into a fool. So you become drunk by the wine of Babylon. You're intoxicated, you're stupefied. You also become foolish, ignorant. And Alahayam permits this, even amongst our people. Because we are a stubborn people and we don't want to listen. We don't want to listen to him, and we don't want to listen when he sends someone to speak on his behalf, to confirm what they have heard from him in the first place. Verse 8, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go everyone into his own country, for her judgment reaches unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. There's no possible way that Babylon could ever be healed. It is not possible. And all the things that it has done has reached up to heaven. By this point of time, reached up to the heavens. That shows you how much wickedness this entity had committed, is committing, and will be committing. Reach up to the heavens. Worse than the Tower of Babel. Verse 11, make bright the arrows, gather the shields. Yahweh has raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it. because it is the vengeance of Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple, his worship. So here we know that this is twofold as well. He raised up Medes and Persians against the Babylonian Empire. All right? And in the future, he's going to cause the kings, which is the beast empire, to destroy it, to destroy Babylon, because it is on his behalf. It is his vengeance on behalf of his temple, on behalf of his worship, on behalf of his temple. True worship, because it has come and brought pagan worship on the earth. Verse 12, set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon, make the watch strong, set up the watchmen, prepare the ambushes. For Yahweh had both devised and done that which he spoke against the inhabitants of Babylon. That's the old Babylon, and that's the new Babylon that's coming. The great city. He has devised it, even from way back then, against the Babylonian Empire, and he will devise again, and he has already devised again against the future Babylonian great city, the Babylonian, the whore of Babylon, really. Verse 13, O you that dwell upon many waters, abundant in treasures, your end is come, and the measure of your covetousness. And when you see dwell upon many waters, that is representative of peoples and nations and tongues. That means it has control over everyone except Alahayam's people. It was Alahayam Yahweh who raised up the Medes against Babylon, as it will also be him who will cause the beast upon which the whore of Babylon is riding, to turn against her to destroy her. Alahayam hates this entity because of its wretched and wicked pagan ways, which had infiltrated his true worship and influenced his people even still today. Let us learn more about this great city called Babylon, or the whore of Babylon, and how this system is currently in effect. The fact that we have so many different religions, each with their own gods, is sufficient to know that this system has been around for a very long time. At the end of the age, it will reveal itself to be like an organization with strong religious influence, and at the same time, the major center of commerce. This is the reason why it will be a great city in the end times. We understood this from the Revelation studies. So let's look at Revelation chapter 17, verse 1. And there came one of the 7 angels who had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come here, I will show unto you the judgment of the great whore that sits upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So this scarlet colored beast that she's sitting upon is beast empire number 8. And notice, red and purple are their colors. That's their colors. They're the colors that they favor. Verse 5. And upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery, meaning secret, hidden things. Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. This is the reason why she's called mother of harlots. Harlots meaning pagan religions. She was the one who birthed them. And all the abominations on the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Yahweh. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. It is this woman, the same Babylon, past, present, and future, that will destroy the people of Alahayam, the ones that they have martyred, the ones that were martyred because of religion, in the name of religion, because of this entity, this creature. All right? Because of this creature. So let's move on. Verse 7. And the angel said unto me, why are you marveling? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carried her, which had the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that you saw was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. So we see here that there are going to be some people that will be born who will automatically be connected to this beast and worship this beast and this whore, and they will marvel because their names were never written in the book of life in the first place. They were born, but their names were never written in the Lamb's book of life. So they were born condemned. So this got to be their offspring. They got to be their people. When they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So when they behold the beast, that means that they are in awe of this creature, this entity, the beast empire. And that's because they have been a part, they have the bloodline of the Nephilim, and that's why they will serve the Nephilim, and that's why their names will not be written in the book of life. There are some people like that today. Their names cannot be written in the books of life because they're a Nephilim bloodline. And so they not automatically become worshippers of the beast, worshipper of its agents, of its whatever entities are there right now, are here right now, that are drawing people into wickedness. And this explains a lot, doesn't it? Why some people are so inherently wicked. Verse 9, and here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are the 7 mountains on which the woman sits. A lot of people think that these are physical mountains, pointing the location of where this woman is located. And they come up with Italy because Italy has 7 mountains. But these 7 heads have nothing to do with literal mountains. These mountains are actually systems that this woman controls, this whore will control. And we see it even to some degree today that it has its hands, its tentacles in some of these mountains today. We're going to look at that later on in this slide, lower down in this slide. Verse 10, and there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen and 1 is. Now, the word kings here are not speaking of literal kings, meaning people that are reigning as a king, speaking of kingdoms. So verse 10 and 11 is allowing us to know that there are kingdoms on this earth. And 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he comes, meaning this kingdom, ran by or possessed by a demonic spirit, a Satan, he must continue a short space, a short time. And that beast was and is not even, he is the eighth and is of the seven and goes into perdition. Now, this sounds a little bit confusing, doesn't it? But if you understand, first of all, if you think of kingdoms and all the kingdoms that were on the earth and is on the earth and will be on the earth, then it will not be confusing. Now, I'm going to address these verses later on when we get down to the bottom of this slide. If anyone during the time of Yawachanan tried to understand verses 10 and 11, they would not comprehend what the angel was saying, just like Yawachanan marveling at the whore, which he would not have understood what this entity represented or will represent to him. Well, yeah, to him, but and represent to us. As a matter of fact, all end times prophecies were difficult to understand, even for the prophets who spoke the prophecies. This was because the end times were far off for them, along with the technologies that were not in place in their time, plus the fact that Alahayam sealed up the prophecies until the time when they are soon to come to pass. It is for this reason why we today can't understand the end times prophecies as they have been unsealed and revealed. Not only unsealed, but revealed by Ruach HaKodesh. He's the one who brings understanding, the revelation, to whomever of redeemed Yashwa'al who wants to know. So you have not only to be of Yashwa'al, but you got to be redeemed. You got to be awakened in order to have this revelation and understanding. The seven mountains on which the horse sits on are the seven systems which this entity, which is possessed by a Satan, will ultimately control the earth. So we have the financial system, the religious system, the governmental system, the economical system, the educational system, commercial and trade system, and the military system are all the seven mountains. She sits on the beast, which is the New World Order number 8, the final evil world dominating empire this world will ever see. This world will ever see. So here the list of the empires that have been around for a long time, and they are still in existence even today. And when I said they are still in existence, meaning that they've been absorbed into the next empire. And the Satan's deposed and in the near future. Notice that the Nephilim spoken of are the agents and the earthly bloodline that carry out the agendas and the narratives. So let's look at the very first empire, world ruling empire. We're talking about Babylonian empire, and the Satan was dethroned and replaced by the Medes and Persian empire. All right. So the Satan, still at number 1, the Satan was deposed, but the Nephilim was absorbed into the next empire called the Medes and Persian Empire. There Satan was dethroned and replaced by the Greek Empire. So the Medes and Persian Empire was overthrown by the next empire, which will be the Greek Empire. So continue on with number 2. So the Satan was deposed. The Nephilim was absorbed into the next empire, and that next empire was called the Greek Empire. And it continues on again. It was dethroned and replaced by, which will be the next empire, number 4, the Roman Empire. But the Satan here in the Greek Empire was deposed. The Nephilim was absorbed into the next empire called the Roman Empire. So notice that it's all compounding until it reaches number 4, where the beast now, the Roman Empire, was so frightful to Dana Ya'al that there was no description to describe what it looked like. Because by this time, now all from the previous empires have been compounded until it reached number 4, the Roman Empire. It was not dethroned, but strategically fell apart to be reformed into number 5, which will be the Roman Catholic Church. Because remember, it merged itself with the church in those days, what they called the church, which would be our people that foolishly signed a treaty with them because they were tired of being persecuted. And they thought, okay, to make it go away so that we can live peaceably together, we will worship. Okay, let me just change that up a little bit. They were given an ultimatum that if they don't want to see more persecution, they had to give up their lifestyle, their Jewish lifestyle. They have to give up the lifestyle of worshiping Alahayam Yahweh to worship the way how the Roman Empire will state to them how to worship. Right? And so they became a merge between the Roman Empire and our people. All right? And this was intentional because Satan always wanted to infiltrate our people, our worship, to cause us to worship him instead. And this is how he managed to do it. So now we have the Roman Catholic Church. So the Satan in the Roman Empire remains and was passed on to the Roman Catholic Church. So that's the same Satan that that was in the Roman Empire was passed on to the Roman Catholic Church. And it is reforming itself still. And this Satan will remain until its next phase to be the whore of Babylon. So now we have number 6. We have the United Nations is a spawn of the Roman Empire and currently ruling. It has a Satan from one of the empires above. They recycle themselves to fulfill their mission. So this United Nations is possessed by the Satan by the name of Gadriel. All right? Gadriel. And we know that the United Nations, they're going to reinvent itself again, because if you know anything about the United Nations, it is where all of the government heads come together to make laws and whatever things they do there, but not on the behalf of the population, but on the behalf of their fallen fathers, the fallen angels and the Nephilim, to bring about control. This is how this entity is still a world controlling, world dominating entity, but it is not seen as an empire. That's the thing about it. But it is an empire made up of a lot of different nations. Remember what happened in 2020 when they shut down the whole world? It was because of this entity. And if this entity was not ruling at the time and have all its people in place inside of it, this thing would never had happened. And all the rulers, all the leaders now in over countries, governing over countries, have their bloodline, have Nephilim bloodline. All right, so we have the United Nations, a small of the Roman. Okay, I read that already. Let's read what's in purple. At this point, Nephilim will be the one constant in all of these entities. The Satans are not. So that means because when Alahayam give the instruction to depose and dethrone a Satan, they have to move out of that entity. However, the Nephilim remains. The Nephilim bloodline remains. And these bloodline are like the ancient families, the old families, the old money families, the families that have the wealth on this earth. And that's why they go from one generation to another, to another, to another. And you don't see them marrying anyone except their own kind. It's not to keep the money amongst themselves, it's to keep the agenda rolling. They got to keep the agenda going, the control of the masses. But what they did not anticipate is that we would multiply to this degree. That's why they're trying to do damage control by deleting as many people as they possibly can through various means, wars and what have you, pharmakia. But the Nephilim is the one constant. They move from one entity to another, one organization, one empire to another, to another, to another. And it doesn't have to be physical earthly people. We're talking about also spirits, unclean spirits. Number 7, the New World Order, which is the beast number. That's the beast empire number 7. It will merge with the UN. Therefore, the Satan from the UN will rule through this empire. It will rule for 3.5 years until its empire is devastated and it is deposed but not destroyed as yet. So the Satan that is ruling in the United Nations, called Gadriel, will also be the one leading and possessing the New World Order, because Gadriel loves technology. He loves technology. All right? And when he's deposed because of the great earthquake that's coming, seal number 6, that's going to depose him, because all his technology will be destroyed by that great earthquake. And at this point of time, he will be benched. He cannot possess any more entities. And when Hamashiach comes, he's the one that's going to be in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. All right? He's the one that is going to be placed in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. So that's where he's headed at this point of time. And number 8, this is the New World Order reformed. And they will have another Satan called Azazel, means scapegoat. And this one will be released from the bottomless pit. But remember what Yochanan said. The angel said to Yochanan, he said, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7 and goes into perdition. So he, number 8 empire here, is of the 7, because it is the same 7th empire, but it becomes number 8 because it has a different Satan ruling and possessing it. It is the same, except but at the same time it's different. All right? So it will not reign as it was before. It is at this point of time weakened, because what made it strong was all the technology it had. But without the technology, it is nothing, until the whore now brings her influence and her affluence. All right? So this is what this scripture here is speaking of, verse 10 and verse 11. The 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. The 1 is number 6, the UN. So remember, when the angel was given this instruction, he was not giving it for the time of Yochanan. He was giving him the interpretation, the understanding for the future. our future. Our future, not Yawakana's time, our time. And this is what we're witnessing today. We're witnessing that we have number 6 already in action. I'm waiting for number 7, but number 7 is not going to come till after seal number 5 is broken. And then it will continue on for a short while, only 3.5 years. Because the great earthquake, seal number 6, will destroy it. Bring it down off its pedestal. All right? Now I covered all of this again in Revelation, the book of Revelation. All right? And I would try to see if I can link that particular study as well. I think it was a 2-part study along with the Roman Catholic Church and Christianity, yes. Verse 12, and the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour for a short time with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast, meaning to the Satan now, not to because it is the Satan that makes the empire a beast. All right, so they give their power unto the Satan, meaning they worship Satan, and anything he says to do, they will do. But Alahayam is instructing the Satan to tell them to destroy the whore. Verse 14, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is Adawan, Adawanayam, and Malak, Malakayam. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. So after they destroyed the whore, then Alahayam, Yahawasha'o, the Lamb, will come and fight with them with the sword in his mouth. And Azazel will be cast into the lake of fire along with its agents, and the demons and devils too that are a part of this system. Verse 15, and he said unto me, the waters which you saw where the whore sits are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, meaning the whole world at this point of time, right? The whole world that will submit under its control because it promised them wealth and position and power. And that's what I'm saying. The Gentiles that will not be a part of it, they're going to be poor, but they're going to be able to survive. Verse 15, and he said unto me, sorry, I read that already. Verse 16, and the 10 horns which you saw upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So these 10 horns are the 10 kings that have territory. They had territories, 10 territories, because the whole earth is going to be divided up into 10 territories. This is after the great earthquake, and the earth becomes one land mass. But sorry, I think I got my timeline confused. Okay, let me start over again. So this will occur at the 5th seal. At the 5th seal, the earth is going to be divided up into 10 territories ruled by 10 kings, 10 leaders, in other words. All right? And after the great earthquake, when the power of this beast, number 7, is destroyed, then these kings will no longer have territories, but they will still have their leadership position. And this leadership position, their desire to follow this Satan, this evil entity will still be there and available for them to do. So that's what's going to be the driving force behind this beast empire number 8. All right, they are still going to be there as leaders, but no territories anymore. Alahayam has taken it away. He has taken away the territories. But now, Azazel, when Azazel possesses this New World Order empire to make it Beast Empire number 8, these kings will give their honor and their worship unto the beast. Okay? And they're going to join with the whore of Babylon because they have no power, they have no wealth, no nothing. They're just an empty shell of an entity. But now with the whore, they're going to have all that they need to carry out the last bit of their evil reign. All right, which is to come against Hamashiach when he comes. But it is also this entity that will destroy the two witnesses, Azazel. All right, the two witnesses. So all that is part of their purpose on the earth. And Alahayam Yahweh will allow them to do this because the two witnesses will come and they will destroy the two witnesses, and then Alahayam is going to raise them up and bring them back to heaven. But now these 10 kings are going to hate the whore because it was placed in them to hate her. All right? And they're going to destroy her, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. Verse 17. And Alahayam has put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree. Let's see where he left off. And gave their kingdom unto the beast until the words of Alahayam shall be fulfilled. So Alahayam was the one who instructed them. Hey, you give your honor to the beast and you destroy the whore. You destroy the whore. And the woman which you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. So that's why they hated her. They did not want to be reigned over because they saw themselves as kings. Gadriel allowed them to be kings and they had their kingdom. And now this whore is coming and telling them what to do. They don't want that. So they despised her. But this is all part of Alahayam's instruction as well. With each deposed empire, the Satans are the ones actually removed, but the Nephilim bloodline remains and were absorbed, I should say, into the next empire. It is for this reason why those who are currently ruling this world are of this bloodline, which is very old, and they know all the secrets kept hidden from the common folk. We hear about these ancient families with the money and power and positions that only marry within their own bloodline. This is to keep their agendas secret and yet active, as they have been planning from the beginning how were going to conquer the world. Alahayam is the only one who defeats these wicked people and who will defeat them, along with their Satans, fallen angels, and Nephilim spirits. It is Alahayam who caused the Satans and their empires to be deposed in the first place, just like he will cause the beast empire to overthrow the whore of Babylon. He has it all under his control. Not these devils. These devils don't. They have to operate on the level on which he allows them to operate. And they can only do what he says to do, what he gives them permission to do. So all the wickedness that you see today happening is because he is allowing them to do it. In the last days, when the final evil world dominating empire rises up on the earth, the entire earth will be divided into 10 territories governed by 10 kings or leaders. This will occur during the reign of Gadriel, the seventh beast empire. And after the great earthquake, when this technology based empire is destroyed, Gadriel will be benched until further notice. He will eventually be cast into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years, the millennial reign of Hamashiach. In the meanwhile, although Gadriel is benched, all technology is destroyed, yet these 10 kings and territories, meaning the beast empire, will remain until it is possessed again by another Satan called Azazel, making it beast empire number 8, the one that was and is, and you know the saying, you know how it goes. Technology will cause beast empire number 7 to be great and powerful, but since its destruction, it will never be the same evil force it once was. This will be the reason why it will join forces with the whore of Babylon, but the beast will hate the whore's control. So now let's look at Revelation chapter 18, starting from verse 1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen. Have you not heard this over and over again? From the prophets of old to even the angels are proclaiming this. Meaning it's overthrown and is become the habitation of devils and the hold of every foul spirit and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Bird is still spirits, evil spirits, all kinds of different familiar spirits. So this is what Babylon will be. It already is, and it will continue to grow to be the habitation of devils, the hold of every foul spirit, cage of every unclean and hateful bird, meaning hateful and unclean spirits, winged spirits, demonic spirits. All right, this is what it will become. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. She will make people rich as long as you worship her, as long as you worship her gods, and you do the things that she tells you to do, and you live deliciously like her, meaning in wickedness. Verse 4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and you receive not of her plagues. That word they should not be there. So this is a cry for us today, just like the cry we heard before from Jeremiah. I believe it's Jeremiah chapter 51, when he said, Flee out of the midst of Babylon. Let's look at that. Jeremiah chapter 51 verse 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon. Come out of confusion. Come out of religion. Get into relationship with Alahayam Yahweh. So now he's saying it again. And this cry is for us today and tomorrow until we are regathered. And then it becomes a cry for the northern kingdom to come out of religion. Otherwise, you're going to partake of her plagues. It may not happen at the time when she is going to be destroyed, but Alahayam will judge you and find you guilty, where you are condemned for all eternity because you refuse to come out of confusion. You refuse to come out of religion. And at one point in time, what he's going to do is he's going to withdraw himself from us, from people, not us, but people who refuse to give up their religions, their pagan ways. All right? All right, let's read on. Verse 5. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Alahayam have remembered her iniquities. You see, it reached up to heaven again. That means that all the stench of her lifestyle, the stench of her abominations have reached the heavens. Verse 6, reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she had filled, fill to her double. So all that she has done, do worse unto her. And anyone who is caught in the midst of her. How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow gave her, because she destroyed people, she destroyed lives, she destroyed civilization, and she tried to destroy our people. What she could not control, she destroyed. For she said in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, I shall see no sorrow. So this is pride. I am the queen, queen of heaven. No widow. I'm not a widow. I have no husband that died. Never had a husband. I am the queen. And no sorrow will ever come my way. No destruction, no nothing, because I sit as a queen. I'm controlling all. Verse 8. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is Yahweh Alahayam who judged her. So her plagues are going to come suddenly. It says here in one day, and later on you're going to see in 1 hour. It's going to come suddenly. When Alahayam called out his people from Babylon, he is in fact calling us out from confusion due to the many religions. The many religions we had been, are, or are trapped in. We all have been trapped in one form of religion or another until we were awakened. Alahayam's call is his awakening. The awakening of his people to the reality of their true identity and his true identity. That is the awakening, when you know who he is and you know who you are. And you start to worship him the way how he wants to be worshipped. And you walk in his commandments and his laws and his statutes and his judgments. And you keep covenant with him. And you obey the instructions, the commandments of the covenant. You're not going to say, well, I'm going to do this but not that because that's old and this is new. No, you're going to obey all of it. Because you recognize you are in covenant with Alahayam. And this is the awakening. To make us aware of our covenant with him and only him, making us not in religion, but in a relationship with our heavenly Abba. Alahayam is still calling his people out from the numerous religions that were planted to keep us indoctrinated in pagan worship. And this also includes the Hebrew Israelite camps. Unless we are in the true relationship with Alahayam, governed by his commandments and his laws, statutes, and judgments, calling on his correct name and titles, then we will be caught up in the judgment of the whore of Babylon, which is utter destruction, fire, and brimstone time. The only way that we can roll this judgment of Babylon from us is by adhering to the voice of Alahayam Yahweh and worship Him and only Him. No pagan gods. Not calling on other names and say it's Him. He knows my heart. He knows who I'm talking to. That's foolishness. Would you say that about a person that you're talking to? You're calling them Nigel and their name is Mary. Oh, she knows who I'm talking to. It doesn't matter if I call her Nigel. Huh? Of course it matters. Of course it matters. So it matters more to Alahayam Yahweh because it is through pride and ignorance that will cause us to think this way and be this way, which is all part of the confusion of Babylon. All part of it. No one can complain to say that they were not given enough time or information because it has been thousands of years up to this moment. And we also were given Rawat Ha'amath, the spirit of truth, to help us. You can't complain. The information is there, but people just don't want to listen. They don't want to hear. This is the nature of Yashraal, both the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Stubborn and stiff-necked. Don't want to listen. It is because of strong Nephilim influence why many of our brethren are astray in pagan worship. Nephilim influence. Why they're in a Hebrew Israelite camp in the first place, thinking that all you got to do is put on the five-pointed star and wear the tetragrammaton on your head, on your chest, on your belly, and wearing all kinds of ridiculous costumes. You think that it's all about a dress code. It has nothing to do with the dress. It has to do with the heart. It's not about the outward appearance. It's the inward works that needs to be done. The heart needs to be changed from stone to flesh so that He now can mold it in the fashion and manner that He wants it to be in. Our people are extraordinarily stubborn and foolish at the same time. Verse 9 of the same scripture, Revelation chapter 18. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is your judgment come. They're standing afar off. They're the merchants in ships. So they're in the ships looking at this city, this port city being destroyed. Verse 11, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buys their merchandise anymore. And this is what they were selling. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all thyine wood and all manner vessels of ivory and all manner vessels of most precious wood and of brass and iron and marble and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. Souls of men, those are the sacrifices. Those are the people that that are going to be used for human sacrificing. So you have the slaves that are going to be sold for labor and whatever else. And then you have the souls of men, meaning the ones that will be used in human sacrificing. Verse 14, and the fruits that your soul lusts after are departed from you, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from you, and you shall find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city, which was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. So this city was rich, rich. Verse 17, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to nothing. So in 1 hour the judgment comes, and in 1 hour the riches come to nothing. And every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors, and as many by trade as trade by sea, stood afar off. So they are on the ocean, heading towards the port city to sell their goods, and all they're saying is fire, fire and smoke. Because this city was the only city on the earth that will buy their goods and give them great wealth. No wonder they cried. Who else is going to buy their stuff? Because this port city was a central city where it delegated its goods. It only sold to those who worship their gods. All right? There's more about this city, but we're going to look at that in a little bit. And if you notice, shipmaster and sailors, because back now, after the great earthquake, there'll be no more planes and automobiles and trains or anything like that, just ships. And because it's one land mass, they leave one coast, and they just travel in one direction or whatever direction to where they need to go to get their goods, their merchandise. And a lot of these people were crooks too. They will be crooks because they were going to steal from people that are raising their own farms and what have you. And this is why they're going to be able to get slaves, because they're going to go in and conquer little villages and what have you. There's going to be a lot of wickedness on this earth. And this is before Hamashiach comes. All right? This is before he comes, because he will come after she is destroyed, because he is going to destroy the beast that will destroy her. All right, let's move on. Verse 18, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness, meaning she paid them good money for their merchandise, because they were her servants, and they worshipped her gods, and lived deliciously with her, lived abominably like she is. She will be. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. So in no time at all, she's going to be destroyed. And her own people are going to destroy her. Look at how many times these merchants wailed and cried out, and how many times it was confirmed that the great city Babylon was destroyed in 1 hour. In other words, suddenly. Just as a side note, the great city Babylon will be a port city, which will be built after the great earthquake. The great earthquake will cause the 7 continents and islands to be reformatted into one land mass again. It was the great flood that broke it apart by the will of Alahayam, and it will be by his will again to bring it all back together as one land mass again. After the great earthquake, when the beast empire number 7 and the anti-Messiah rises, this whore will construct her port city, easily accessible by ships in the sea. It will be while on their ships that these merchants will see the smoke of the destroyed great city, Babylon. Now no one will buy their goods, as the whore was their only buyer. And she paid them well too. Paid them very well. So let's carry on with this same chapter 18, Revelation chapter 18, verse 20. Rejoice over her, you heaven, and you holy apostles and prophets, for Alahayam has avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of the harpers and musicians and of pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in you, and no craftsman, and of whatsoever craft he be, shall be found no more in you. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in you. And the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in you. And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in you. For your merchants were the great men of the earth. For by your sorceries, and sorceries here is pharmakia, that's where you get the word drugs or pharmacy from. It's a poisoning or magical arts and even idolatry. So those were the sorceries, all of the above. So, for by your sorceries were all nations deceived. Even today, we are still deceived. We are still being deceived by the sorceries of Babylon. Taking drugs. The first thing you run to is the doctor when you don't feel well. I'm not saying don't go to a doctor if you're feeling extremely ill, but if you have a problem and you know, well, I've felt this way before and I have gone to the doctor before and he said, well, it's because of this, this, and that. But you go because you trust the doctor. And then they give you prescription. And you start to take the prescription. Next thing you know, you have another problem. You got to go back to the doctor to get more drugs and more drugs. And now your whole life is dependent on taking a whole slew of drugs. When all you had was it was a problem to do with their diet. Eating the wrong kinds of foods. Not eating healthy. All right? Stay away from these quackadoodles in lab coats. Some people say, well, not all medications are bad. All of them are bad. All of them. They all have the same purpose, which is to keep you dependent on that prescription and create more problems so that you become dependent on more drugs. Some people wait to the last minute, well, I'm feeling so bad, and don't try to investigate as to why they're not feeling well. All right? There's always a reason why you're feeling well, and it always has to do with your diet. And Alahayam has given us herbs and what have you to help us to heal our bodies naturally. It may take a little bit longer than the prescription drugs, but it has no, sometimes zero to maybe the only side effect may be to make you sleepy or what have you. But nothing dangerous, not like these drugs. Cancer and all manner of wickedness that they put in these drugs to make you sicker. You get better one and you got two more problems. And you got to take drugs now for those two problems. And then it's not a matter of you getting better. They manifest into something else. Because your body is crippling under the heavy dosages that they give you. Right? I'm causing your liver to become toxic, and your liver is like it cleans your blood. And your kidneys become a problem. Your kidney cleans your blood as well. All kinds of problems you start to develop, all because of pharmakia, all because you trust what your doctors said to take. I can't remember the last day I went to a doctor. When I discover all of this is by revelation. And what I started doing, if I go to the doctor because I'm not feeling well, I have to be very sick. That was back in the day. And when I go and he tells me, well, this is the problem, this is the prescription, I say thank you, and I walk out through the door. And I take the prescription, I throw it in the garbage. And I go to the health food store and I find the equivalent of what could help heal my body naturally. I'm not here to give medical advice to anyone, but use common sense. If you've been on medication for years, you can't just stop taking it. Your body is dependent on it. And another thing that medication does, it stops your body from producing the right kinds of chemicals to help heal your body. Because your body now is dependent on the artificial chemicals being introduced to it. And then you suddenly stop, you got a big problem on your hands. So you can't just suddenly stop taking their medications. They got you hooked. Sorry to say. You got to pray and ask the Father how to get off of this medication. Even people that are diabetic, they become diabetic because of the medication, not because of anything else, and also to their diet. Our diets today are high in sugars and salt. But people don't want to change their lifestyle. They don't want to change how they eat. They just want to run to the doctor and take medication and continue on. All right, let's carry on. So all this along with idolatry as well. Verse 24. And in her was found the blood of the prophets and of the saints and of all who were slain upon the earth. So she's the one responsible for killing the prophets. She's the one that was responsible for killing the saints. And she was the one who killed a lot of people upon the earth. Listen, let me just say this too, right? We're not talking only about the Gentiles. Our own people. Kill our own people. Kill our own prophets. Kill the Messiah, Hamashiach. Our own people. Out of what? Religion. Because of paganism. We killed one another. Because of this whore. All right, so it's not just the Gentiles, it's our people too. Our people killed the prophets. Not only the Gentiles, some Gentiles did, but most of the time it was our own people, our rebellious people, rebellious forefathers. Because they were living like pagans, they were living like whores and harlots, and they did not want to listen. So the prophet that came to correct them, they destroyed them because of this whore. They were led, they were influenced by this whore to kill our own prophets. It's a wicked entity. It caused our own people to turn against each other. Wicked. How about when the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom used to war against each other? It's this whore. It is because of this whore. The great city Babylon will not only be a port city, but a sin city as well, with all manner of wicked activities, just like Las Vegas. vibrant, active, 24 hours with all kinds of crafts, refineries, mills. That's what the millstone is for, because they're going to be milling there. That's why they buy the wheat. They buy the flour and they also buy the wheat, and they're going to mill it. And whatever this city can use to turn a dollar and a profit. So it's going to be a sin city. It's going to be colorful. It's going to be vibrant. It's going to be full of music. That's why he talked about the harpers and the musicians and the pipers and the trumpeters. Because it's going to be just like Sin City, Las Vegas. Their version of it, that anyways, because they're not going to have electricity and anything like that, but they're going to have candles there. So those candles are going to be burning 24 hours, day and night. Well, night, not day, but night, to keep the place lit, to keep people sinning and living in sin. All right? It will have its own church too, to keep revelers within this city. There will be no need to go anywhere. All that is needed to enjoy will be found in this city, just like those 15-minute cities that you hear now coming up. Everything is going to be a walk, a 15-minute walk away, at least. Sorry, at the most. At the most. You don't have to go further than 15 minutes in any direction to go to whatever place you need to go. Bakery, hairdresser, car wash. Well, you're not going to have a car. Well, you're not going to need a car, but a mechanic, what have you, whatever people may need. Because people will be allowed to travel in cars outside the city, but only a certain number of times a year. For an entire family. Can't remember how many times they're quoted. All right? So yes, they may have a mechanic there or what have you. Gas station. Whatever you need to make you feel like you're living in a city. Shops, stores, what have you. This is what this port city, Babylon, will have. Well, there are no cars. There are not going to be any mechanics or anything. There's no need for that. Don't know what kind of ships the ships will be. Maybe they'll be burning coal. Who knows? Maybe it's just going to be a sail ship. And they're going to use the slaves to oar them, to use the oars, what have you. They had those in the past. That's what they had the slaves for. All right? So they're going to have all manner of delights in this city. So you come in, you may never want to leave because you're enjoying the sin so much. Day and night. They never sleep. It's a city that never sleeps. You can find action everywhere in any direction. I don't think there wouldn't be gambling there either. You're going to have all of that and above. All of that and above. And like I said, they're going to have their little church there too. All kind of church activities. Their version of it anyway. You don't have to leave to go anywhere to go to church. You can just stay there and do everything you need to do. Everything. Excuse me. If only we can all see what is really going on behind the world scene and not take anything at face value. Just because the mainstream media or government is reporting on it and we treat them as our only source of information. Therefore, we believe them. Then a dark cloud of ignorance will hang over our minds, leaving us dumbed down and completely clueless about the truth. But it is the light of Alahayam, his truth, which keeps us aware, alert, in the know, and out of the darkness, which is ignorance. Alahayam would destroy the whore of Babylon. It is important for us today to get out of confusion, get out of religion while we can today, before we receive the same judgment as this whore. And the cry is out for everyone who has ears to hear, who have ears to hear, to come out of Babylon, come out of religion. Don't believe everything you hear coming from the mainstream media and even your governments. They're all part of the system, the Babylonian system, to keep us dumbed down and ignorant of the truth. These people have been plotting and planning for generations. And what we're seeing today is the climax, or actually reaching the climax. We're not quite there yet, but we're reaching the climax of their wickedness, because it's going to get darker. And we have to understand that Alahayam Yahweh has already passed judgment on the fallen angels, the Nephilim, and their offspring, and anyone who joins with them. They will receive the same judgment, which is the lake of fire. Now the question is, are you willing to come out of confusion? Are you willing? And I leave that with you. We are living in some seriously perilous times. Seriously perilous. And the worst part of it all is the fact that we can't see, neither can we understand what is really happening behind the scenes, what it all means. Because there's a darkness that has come over our eyes, and our ears have become hardened, and so our hearts. We can't hear, we can't see, neither can we understand. And that's because Alahayam Yahweh has not given us the ability to understand. That's the reason why people are in ignorance, because he has not given them the truth. He has not spoken the truth. And it's not because he has withheld the truth from them. It is because they have chosen to believe the lies. They don't want to know the truth, so they don't come to him. But they choose to listen to the lies, and they adhere to the lies, and they follow the recommendations. So Alahayam steps back and says, okay, because he's not going to force his knowledge on anyone. He's not going to force the truth on anyone. All right? No, he's not. Everyone has a choice placed before us. Either we want to know the truth or we don't. Either we want to live in righteousness or we don't. The choice is ours. All he can do is to point us in the direction, show us in the word where we have gone wrong and how we can make it right. And that too is a choice. This Nephilim bloodline is some serious business. But a lot of people are going to think this is nothing. This is no biggie. But once you can grasp the understanding of what they represent and what they are on the earth, then all the pieces are going to fall into place. And then your understanding is just going to blossom. And then you're going to see it as clear as crystal. Everything that is going on, all the strings being pulled, is by these people, by this bloodline. Doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter the color, the race, age, nothing. It is this bloodline. And they use everyone because they have infiltrated everyone at this point of time. So you can't say the people that look like Negroes, they're not affected. Of course they are. Of course they are. That's why they use certain entertainers that look like us to persuade us of, or to provoke us into unrighteousness, to live like they are. Because they're good at persuasion, they're influencers. Okay, all right. With that, we will say the blessing for Yashwa'al. This is the ending of this particular study. Stay tuned for the next study. I don't know yet, but I may do another particular study. I don't know. I'm just waiting and praying. But it will all connect with this here, because I mentioned a little bit about it in one of the slides talking about the ancient bloodlines on this earth. I want you to see who they are. All right, and how they're all connected together at the root. They're like a fungus. You see the heads of the fungus above the earth, but beneath them, there's a network that connects every fungus with each other. This is how the Nephilim bloodline is. You see them all over the place, but you can't see the connection, the spiritual, the evil spiritual connection. You need eyes to see it. And they keep connection with each other all over the world through their secret organizations, their alphabet organizations. They meet together in different places at different times to be on par, be on the same page as to what they're going to roll out next against us, the common people. They know something is coming. They know that Alahayam is sending his son very soon to collect his people. So they're getting their agendas and even their narratives in place to explain what had just taken place. They're going to try to stop it, but they just can't. So they're going to explain it away. Okay, the blessing for Yashwa'al, taken from Madabar, chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. That's the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. Yabarakak Yahweh wa Yashamarak. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. Ya'ar Yahweh panayo alayak wa yachanak. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you and have favor upon you. Yasha'ar Yahweh panayo alayak wa yasham lak shalawah. May Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. And now we will say the command for Yashwa'al taken from the Barayam chapter 6 verses 4 and 5. Deuteronomy chapter 6 verses 4 and 5. Shama o Yashwa'al, Yahweh Alahayana, Yahweh Achad, wa Ahabaf Yahweh Alahayak, Bakal Babak, Ubakal Napashat, Ubakal Ma'adak. Hear, O Yashwa'al, Yahweh our Alahayam is one Yahweh. And you shall love Yahweh, your Alahayam, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And with that, I will say, Shalom, Shalom. All praises to the Most High. Abba, yeah.